Last week was one of the most historic times for ETF entries into Ethereum. They reached 2.80 D70.1 dyers, which was huge, huge, huge. But now it's the weekend, so no more updates until Monday. But yeah, guys, these are record numbers. What does this mean for XRP? I've been telling you guys over and over that when you see a cryptocurrency like Ethereum getting so popular, you should think about what kind of effect this could have on the altcoin market, which includes XRP. We've also talked about how this helps us understand what really happens when you see an XRP spot ETF. I also made some similarities. If you look back at it from about 2 months ago, Ethereum inflows were pretty slow, but over the last 2 months, we've seen that change that turned the switch on for ETFs. Of course, Treasury, Tom Lee's company is building the biggest treasury for Ethereum, which is why a lot of people are interested. But I'm even more excited about what will happen when an XRP ETF goes live because of this. I'm going to talk a little more about what I think about that. But good to see you again on Coins Alert. We're still seeing a lot of rent all over, except for a few coins that are going up. When we talk about coins that are going up, XRP is one of them. Its price is now 3. But before we go any further, as always, I want to make it clear that nothing on this channel is meant to be taken as financial advice. As with any investment, you should always do your own study before putting money into crypto. XRP is just sitting on top of the range of all-time highs. At the moment, net imports are not going up or down, so one-way changes from now on until a certain number is reached. To be honest, I think things are still looking really good for XRP. I agree with you, we're still in that range, but the price of XRP is still looking better than many people thought it would be. Let's look at the numbers and talk about that. But read what Paul Atkins of the SEC has to say. Doing all of this and dealing with all of these different rules is mostly done to give people some peace of mind. Yes, we needed this. If you've been in this space for a while, you know that the government of the previous administration and SEC Chairman Gary Gensler needed this as well. When it came to crypto, there was no guidance and no rules. It's just making up rules. This led to a lot of anger, and as a result, many large organizations that wanted to build in the US instead did so in other countries since there wasn't any support for crypto certainty. But this is where we see the event where the switch is flipped. And I think this makes it possible for more growth and interest to come in, not just from stores, but also from institutions and developers. Being clear is important, and this makes it possible for other financial institutions to start providing these services or entering the safe coin market. Of course, they won't do that unless there is a really clear sign of what the consequences are and what's right, what's wrong, and what's going on right now. This has never happened before in the history of crypto, but it is now. This is where the excitement comes in, and it ties back to my main point about what will happen when XRP ETFs go live. Right now, this is where the excitement comes in, and it ties back to my main point about what will happen when XRP ETFs go live. Right now, bank companies are getting a lot of money. If they're like the one I gave you guys, their money will keep coming in. The person who wants to be the biggest theory in treasury business is, but I bring this up because let's guess what might happen. Could a big company come along and become the biggest? XRP strategic reserve and not really focusing on that one use case and group. It doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense. What if I told you that I could already see signs of that? By that I mean that, as you may have seen in the last few vids, there are some publicly traded companies that are actually raising money to build an XRP strategic reserve. And this is before the XRP spot ETF starts trading. In other words, these puzzle pieces are beginning to fit together for me. That's something I don't want you guys to miss. Oh sure, tell me what you think about that in the comments below. But first, take a look at this. Banks will be able to link their main systems to the Ripple network in the same way they link to the Swift network. Take a look at what X-Finance both says about that. We're still putting trillions of dollars on old technology from the 1970s, that's right. Give it some time to sink in. That's so true. This is where ISO 222 comes in, and we can see that switch working, but it's hard to slow and broken to send money across borders. With XRP and stable coins that work, Ripple is making rails. It's been coming for years. Swift will not make it through this run. Even the CEO of Swift has said nice things about XRP. They are aware of what's going on. Even the CEO of Ethereum has said that Swift doesn't even follow ISO standards. Take that in, guys. Also, the XRP community should look at the case between the SEC and Ripple over XRP. Because of this, the SEC government told the Court of Appeals that both sides had filed a joint stipulation of dismissal of the appeals, and that stipulation is still open, which means it needs to be approved by the court. I know people are getting angry about this, so let's end it for good. Right now, it's still waiting for the judge. Yes, of course, both sides have chosen to drop the appeal after all. We want to end this case that has been going on for 5 years. It seems like a long time, but it's still being handled. And I think we're still waiting for approval. When that agreement comes into play, we should think that's the end of it. You still need to see the judge agree to this. They don't want to go through the whole process again, even though it's over, like with the appeal. It's set in stone. It's done. But the judge needs to come and end this by, of course, giving his or her approval. That's a really cool thing. We'll definitely take care of you guys. For what that leads to, and a shout out to Small Guess, XRP has already been tested and found to work well with South Africa's Exchange Control Rule, 1961. It was overseen by the South African Reserve Bank's Financial Surveillance Department, which is in charge of 4 cross-border crypto asset payments. It's a big deal, but let's see what's going on with the price if you want to see who's in charge here. 59.61% of the times we saw this rise, up to 60% of the times it was turned down in that range. Since then, we've been pulling down. Bitcoins did go back down in price as well. Let's make it live again to see where Bitcoins are going. Getting to